It calls out to anyone in the sport, coaches or players, current student athletes or future recruits. Every athlete or coach wants to be part of something bigger than themselves. I think Minnesota is as big as it gets.
Coach Jeff Day with the Star Tribune. Can you, just in your opening statement, you were talking about the thing that has been built here, and I think one of the unique elements of this hire is that it did come in the wake of Hugh McCutcheon's tenure here, which was a successful tenure on the back of Mike Hebert. Can you just speak to the legacy and sort of how you view handling that kind of transition, and maybe how you alleviate the pressure that comes with that, how you handle the pressure that comes with that, and just what that feels like in this moment for you?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. I was hoping we would get there. Who doesn't want to be held to the highest standard of coaching? I've never understood how someone would look at a program who's had great coaching and thought, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be held to that standard. One of the things that I thought made me uniquely qualified for this position was that I've been through a transition like this before. I followed one of the greatest coaches in our game, and I went through an experience that I can laugh about now and smile about now, but as you can imagine, as a 28-year-old, was quite jarring. But on the other end of that is the confidence that I'm the best person for this current situation. To try and meet the standard that Mike and Hugh set only motivates me. I don't feel pressure, I feel responsibility, and at this point I know that responsibility is something that motivates me.
Hey, I'm Betsy with the Pioneer Press. I was just wondering what your first week has been like. Have you had a chance to start building relationships with student athletes, and what will that process look like for you?
Yeah, first week. I got to spend about 10 hours here when I first came with my family, and then I was on a plane the next morning to Omaha for the Final Four and the convention. I think it's a good time to mention that Kathy DeBoer, the executive director of the AVCA, trusted me to be the president of the AVCA, and she's on the road to recovery from a health scare, which we've all thought about for a while now. So it was important to me to fulfill that responsibility to her at the convention. So I flew to Omaha on Tuesday morning and worked from Tuesday to Friday, and then returned to campus Friday evening, where I immediately began meeting with student athletes in person. And so the first week has not been boring, to say the least. It's been difficult, but it's also felt right. I've been amazed at how each day unfolds, and no matter what we're going through, it feels like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be doing.
Obviously, the transfer portal is such a big part of college sports right now. When you meet with these student athletes, are you trying to re-recruit them to your style, and where does the transfer portal fit in your overall scheme, philosophy on how you build a program?
Yeah, the path forward to me has always been people, values, volleyball in that order. And so right now we're in the people phase. And I'm meeting with these athletes face to face and hearing their stories and sharing my vision and getting to know them. They're my number one priority, in addition to building the staff. Seeking to understand the values of this department, this institution, this volleyball program. And then the volleyball piece will follow that. The transfer portal is a story that everyone talks about. I think it's pretty well known at this point. In my 8 years at Washington, I never had a player enter the transfer portal. I've had a few great experiences of bringing athletes from the transfer portal and having long, fulfilling careers with them at Washington. But the current team is my primary focus, and then we've got some space to bring in some new additions, which I'm looking forward to. But right now, the athletes that were there with me on day one are the ones I'm meeting with and getting to know.
Hi, Tom Reuther from Channel 4. The Big Ten, that's a beast. When you talk about the conference, it's basically the NCAA tournament starts when that conference season starts.
Talk about the Big Ten. Yeah. It's hard to change your mindset, when you're a Pac-12 guy originally. I think what stood out most to me about the Big Ten was just their commitment to the sport. And 6 of the top 10 schools in attendance this year were in the Big Ten. The quality of coaches that have entered the conference in the last 5 years, the feedback I was getting from recruits, it can't be denied how much work the Big Ten has done on behalf of women's volleyball, and that's something that I wanted to be a part of. And we've scheduled, I think on average, 4 Big Ten teams every year in the preseason for the last couple years. So I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Speaking of the Pac-12, in a couple of years here, UCLA and USC are going to join the Big Ten. I wonder if you can just, how do you view the trajectory of this sport and maybe the growth potential of it as the Big Ten not only has a rich tradition, but is going to add 2 programs that also have a really rich tradition in volleyball? Is your relationship to the sport changing as it grows and continues to kind of find its footing on the national stage?
Yeah, good question. It's worth saying one of the most exciting tournaments we've had in years. You know, the tournament structure being changed was a big mission of mine this past year, working with ESPN to increase coverage. Those were all things that I was passionate about. Some of the best ideas that I was discussing with coaches around the country were being implemented by the Big Ten, such as the Media Day that took place last year. And I realized that they were taking the lead on a lot of these initiatives. Volleyball is just, people are just starting to see what it's capable of, and you want to be a part of it now because it's about to take off. And so I like where I am. Actually, I don't like the schools joining our conference. I shouldn't say that. I'm excited to keep playing USC and UCLA for a continued period of time in my career. But yeah, put a lot of work last spring into trying to help raise the profile of the game, and so excited to see some of our work come to fruition this December and people start to recognize just how special this game is. Thank you.
This was obviously a very unique coaching search with a midseason resignation. Can you give some insight into how that process played out for the athletic department? Did it provide unique challenges because everybody in the country knew that you were going to be looking for a head coach the second the season ended?
Yeah, first I broke out in hives, and then, no, just kidding. It was unique in that Julie and I had conversations with Hugh, and we know Hugh was trending this way. And so, again, I give Julie a lot of credit because we started to think, and she did a wonderful job as our sport administrator to start to map out our plan and what we were going to do. And I think once we had a chance to meet the student athletes and let them know what direction we were going, what we were trying to do, we had, gosh, Julie, maybe 3 or 4 meetings with the team, trying to keep them updated throughout the process. And you know, what we learned is obviously Minnesota volleyball is special. It's on a national stage, and there was a lot of interest in this opportunity. So it gave us a chance to, again, be very intentional in the type of person we were trying to recruit to Minnesota and get here to lead our program. So, again, I think the time played out into our favor because we had time to prepare, and then we had time to interview candidates as we move forward. And then, again, we were extremely excited with where we landed with Coach Cook.
Mark, a little bit abstract, but along the same lines, when you established, the Big Ten and the benefits of, you just got a whopper deal, for television rights for football. What does that mean in terms of being able to attract coaches at every sport because your budget goes up? And what does it mean to have Michigan and Ohio State make the Final Four as you spread the money out amongst the Big Ten in terms of, you're part of a conference here that looks like it's got a lot of power?
Yeah, Mike, I heard a long time ago, money's not the most important thing, but it's right up there with oxygen. And I've never forgotten that line. And there's no doubt, obviously, with the addition of USC and UCLA, which became final last week out in California, with the addition of those two programs, the media deal that we have in place, it has a tremendous impact on all of our programs. And Keegan and I and Julie, we talked about, the Big Ten Network and what it does with volleyball. I mean, volleyball is a big deal to the Big Ten Network. All of our sports are a big deal to the Big Ten Network. And so there's no doubt those revenues help us. And I think when you start to see on the national landscape, the recruiting, the type of people you have coming to the Big Ten Conference, there's a reason why. People recognize the value of it. You go from the New York market now out to the LA market. Kids can compete all across the country on national TV. There's a lot of advantages, but there's no doubt the revenue coming in definitely allows us to help support our student athletes academically, athletically, and socially.
How involved was Hugh in the search process, if at all? Like, did he have any input on these are the qualities or pillars you should be looking for in a new coach, or was he kind of hands off?
No, I think Julie and I would be foolish if we didn't involve Hugh in the process. And Hugh, you all know Hugh. Hugh was awesome. And he was great during this process. Obviously, again, Julie deserves a lot of credit. We had a very talented pool of candidates that we interviewed with. And as we started to interview those candidates and we started to have conversations with Hugh about, what he thought was important for our program and those type of things. So he did have input in the process, and we're very grateful, obviously, for what he's done for our program. We're excited about the future of our program with Keegan, but we're also excited with Hugh being involved with our department as a whole to not only work with administrators, but work with our coaches and help them all hone their crafts as well. But Hugh had a part in this, yes.
Along those same lines, in a way, I guess, just because it is interesting to have a welcome party, but because of the nature of that announcement, sort of the segue is a little bit stilted here. And I wonder if you can speak to not only the tenure of Hugh, but also of, say, Matt and Jen Hauk, who I know yesterday announced they won't be coming back with the program. I know Matt was one of the people who interviewed for the job. Can you just speak about what you saw from them as a group of coaches and sort of maybe some of the decision-making that went into not hiring him?
Yeah, well, first off, Hugh, I'm in year 7 here, so obviously Hugh was here when I got here, and Hugh and I probably have, if not daily, at least 2 or 3 times a week conversations, and so many of those conversations had nothing to do with volleyball. They're just about, life, the department, what we're trying to do long term, and we worked on a strategic plan as a department a few years ago, and Hugh played a big part in that process. And when we looked at our program, it was incredibly important for us. We wanted our volleyball program, our student athletes. I don't think all of us appreciate what they've been through. I mean, those are 18 to 20-year-old kids who were recruited by a staff, and then they're told that staff is going to leave, and how they responded, how they reacted. So, again, when you look at Matt and Jen and Hugh and the success they've had over this time period, there's no doubt it's tremendous success. And again, when Julie and I had a chance to talk with our student athletes, we had a chance to talk with the candidates, our goal was how do we help this program take the next step? And we feel like that next step is a national championship. And again, they went to 3 Final Fours, which is awesome. No pressure, Keegan, but that's the expectation. And we understand, that's the expectation at Minnesota. And again, when you talk to Keegan, he talked about in his remarks, he embraces that opportunity. I know Julie and I spent a lot of time talking about we need to bring somebody in here whose knees aren't going to buckle. His knees aren't going to buckle, and so that's why we feel really confident about this decision.
Do we have any more questions for Director Coyle? Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.